Hello there! Welcome to the very first episode of Jeddah Workshop. My name's Ash, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this helmet, the Biker Scout helmet from Star Wars Return of the Jedi. How this came about is I was just sitting around in lockdown during the COVID pandemic here in the UK, and I was bored out of my mind like the rest of the world. And I found myself watching some videos of very similar to this, of how to do it, and I thought, I want to do that, so that's what I did. I bought myself a 3D printer for the first time ever. I knew nothing about it really, and just plowed in there, and this is the result. If you want to make this helmet yourself, if you own a 3D printer, I have the STL files on my website, which you can download. If you don't have a printer, no worries whatsoever. You can also buy the parts. I will print these parts for you and post them out to you, and you can make this helmet yourself for relatively cheap. So yeah, if you want to find out, let's get to it. Okay, so first of all, why the Biker Scout? Well, it's just honestly my favorite Star Wars helmet. I grew up watching Return of the Jedi. It was the first Star Wars film I ever saw on British TV at Christmas in, I think it was like 1988 or something like that, and I just absolutely loved it. I watched it religiously over and over and over, never seen anything like it. I just love the design, I love the 80s-ness of it, but like not 80s cringe or cheese cool, like 80s actual cool, you know, like an Audi Quattro, you know, the square 80s-ness. It could only ever be of that era. I'm also pretty sure my dad, because I grew up in the 80s, had some boots like almost identical to the ones they wore. So yeah, that's the reason why I just absolutely love it, and I thought if I can make this, then I can make other helmets. But let's start with my favorite ever. So that's what I did. I've never 3D printed before, didn't know anything about it, only what I'd seen on YouTube. So this is me like figuring out how to set up 3D models and all the print settings, and just you know, how to navigate the program. So this is Cura, and it's called a slicer, and this is how you prepare your models for printing. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just adding some supports here, because when you 3D print, it prints in horizontal lines, kind of like, you know, a wedding cake. And if it gets to a bit where it's completely horizontal and there's nothing underneath, it can't print in mid-air, so you add support material, so it builds up the PLA plastic up to that point, and then it has a surface to print on. And this is how long it's going to take. 1 day, 2 hours, 49 minutes, just for the face mask, and it's going to use 196 grams of filament. So it's not a fast process, and each individual part you have to print separately, and each part takes, you know, at least a day. So to print this whole mask, I think it took, you know, about a week, about 100 hours of printing. You know, the printer was going 24/7. As soon as it stopped, I loaded up the next thing, pressed go, waited another day, day and a half, 2 days, whatever. So yeah, it's quite a fascinating process to watch. I was transfixed at like how the printer works, and I honestly sat and watched it for about 3 hours straight, just completely zoned out. So it's quite a beautiful process. So this is me doing like a first print ever, or maybe 2 or 3 attempts, because I can see the marks on the bed there. But this is me just doing a calibration print to level the bed, and then I just dove straight into printing the helmet. There you go. That's probably like halfway through, 3/4 of the way through, and the little kid in me is going, "Oh my god, I'm printing a Biker Scout helmet, it's working, yes!" Yes, I am a total freak. So this is the dome of the helmet, top part, printing now. I learned from some videos that even though it's horizontal, Because of the way 3D printers work, you don't actually need support material to support the inside of it. I just put a little cross for the very center, but because it prints in sort of layers in a circular motion, it can do it, no problem. It's a bit stringy and messy on the inside, but it still works. And it saves a shed load of filament, because when you put it in Slicer, you know, it wants to support the whole of the inside of the helmet, but you just really don't need to, so you save a lot of time and filament and ultimately expense. So here it is printing the visor part and the back of the helmet. Because of the size of the print bed, you can't print an entire helmet on this one, you can on other models. It's still a large build plate. This is a CR10 Mini, so the build plate area is 300 millimeters by 270 millimeters by 300 millimeters high. So what I did is split up the helmet into pieces and print them separately. So what I've done here is I've got all the pieces printed separately, and I've sanded the edges to make a good surface for glue, and then all I've done is just use some like super glue, like Gorilla Glue, and to hold the pieces so that they dry, so I don't have to sit there, you know, holding them for hours. I'm just using a soldering iron to sort of weld the pieces together. It just does a little strip of plastic to hold them together. Be really careful here to get them lined up and properly, because otherwise you're just going to run into so many problems down the line. You sort of need 3 pairs of hands, but it is possible. I'm sorry if the video footage here looks like a cheap porno. I mean, it'd be a weird porno, but yeah, potato quality. I just wasn't thinking, I was too excited. I just wanted to, you know, make the helmet. You don't need much glue because it expands kind of like 3 or 4 times its size, so I just do a little dab sort of every, you know, every centimeter or so, every inch. So this is all the pieces printed and glued together, and I left them in here to just dry or whatever, and I just saw the light shining through, and that is the shape of the infill pattern, which I just thought was ridiculously cool. So it's not solid plastic, it prints an infill pattern so that you don't have to print solid plastic, and that's just the structure of it. It looks amazing, doesn't it? Okay, so once the helmet's built, like, that's it. You can just use it, wear it, put it on your shelf, whatever you want, but it's not ever going to be as good as what you can make it to, you know, fill in the printer line. So I use this stuff, which is 3D printer resin. It has nothing to do with this 3D printing process. It's a completely different process, which uses this solution and light to build up the layers rather than print them. It's quite fascinating. But that solution basically is liquid, and when you paint it on and expose it to UV light, i.e. the sun, it dries hard. So it fills in all the printer lines and gives a really good just a good layer to begin with. However, it's also rock hard, so you want to stay away from any of the detailed areas of the helmet. You just want to do the large, open, kind of flat areas. Anywhere that you can get to with a sander or a piece of sandpaper. Anywhere you can't, completely avoid those areas, because otherwise you'll just never be able to get it off. So once all the 3D printer resin is painted on, I then just put it in the sun to dry. Also, pro tip, don't paint it in the sun because it gets really hot and starts to solidify as you're painting it on, so do it in a sort of darkened room. Okay, here comes the sanding. There will be lots and lots of sanding, so don't do it like a madman like I'm doing. Use a mouse sander for the first layer just to save your energy. I didn't honestly realize how much sanding there would be, so if you can get through this process, which is long and arduous, it is all the more worth it. I mean, I actually quite like sanding. I find it quite meditative. It's a good job, really. Okay, so once you've Got your first layer sanded, it's time to use some filler primer. Now filler primer is different to normal primer paint because it's a bit thicker, so it also helps to fill in those lines. So I just do a really good coat of filler primer, leave it to dry for 20 minutes, maybe come over and do another layer. But this also helps you to highlight all the imperfections of the helmet because it's all one base flat colour, so it's really good. So once you do that, you then want to use some kind of filler material which is a bit easier to apply and sand than the printer resin. So I used something called 3M spot and glazing putty. I think in the States it is called Bondo spot and glazing putty, but we don't have that here, so I use this 3M stuff. It's really quite expensive. It's like 20-25 quid from Amazon for a single tube, so I am going to look into cheaper alternatives for that. But if you could see the kind of dark burgundy areas, that was me filling in the other imperfections. I then sand those down, and then I used filler primer again. I've switched to a different brand here called High Coat, which is why it's yellow, but it's much cheaper than the grey stuff, and it works just as well. It's basically what panel beaters use to fix car bodies, bumpers and whatnot to, you know, get rid of scratches and imperfections. It's also called stopper, so I'm sure there's like hundreds of different products out there that is the same thing. You don't have to use this process of like 3D printer resin and filler primer and glazing putty. You know, this is just what I'm doing because I've seen other people do it. So I'm also experimenting with other things, you know. Art is creative, just experiment, and if you find stuff that works, do that, and let me know in the comments what you use and what works and what hasn't worked. You know, it's all a learning process. And these are all the little accessory pieces: the nose grill, the back vents, the hinges for the flip up visor itself, and this is obviously with a full coat of filler primer. You can start to see just the small imperfections here that I still need to fill, but overall it's looking really good. Most of the printer lines, the ridges, are filled in with the UV resin. These are just a few more areas that I need to go over, so feel free to go over them as many times as you want. Just fill it, sand it, spray some filler primer on, fill it and sand it some more. Just keep repeating that process until you are completely happy with the finish of it. I've been using like 120 grit sandpaper until now, and until I start to get happier with the surface, I then start to, you know, downgrade and go to finer sandpapers. So after the 120, I will go down to like 240, I think it is, do the whole helmet with that. And then I'll go down to 400 and do the whole helmet with that, and then I might give it another spray of filler primer, just to double check it. Once you get down to a fine grit like 400, it really starts to make sense. You're kind of like, why am I just filling and priming and sanding and filling and priming and sanding? And then when you get down to the fine grade sandpaper and you see the smooth finish that you've achieved, it all starts to make sense, and it's all like starts to be worth it. But here we are, I'm finally down to the process of painting it white. So, you know, this whole process of filling and sanding and priming and blah blah, you have to leave each stage of it like 24 hours for the whatever to dry, whether it's the glazing putty or the filler primer. So it does take a couple of days. So just take your time and make sure you're happy with it. And when you get to this stage where you actually start painting it the color it's meant to be, it is so satisfying. Oh my god. So do a few layers of your white paint, leave that to dry, come back to it, check it, you know. You don't want to do more than like 3. I think I just did like two layers of white paint here. And I wanted it quite shiny and fresh, so I used like a high gloss white spray paint. And also take your time, you know, do it in small bursts. don't think that it's going to be a better paint job if you do it faster. It's not, it's going to be worse. And if you screw up the paint here, you're just going to be so annoyed because you're just going to have to like sand it down again, repaint it, wait another 24 hours. Like just do it in 20-minute intervals. Do a quick once over, walk away for 20 minutes, come back, another quick once over. Don't concentrate any paint on one area for longer than like a second. Seriously, you will regret it. I'm just finishing it off here with some clear lacquer just for even more gloss and protection. Okay, so once you've done your paint job, it's time to start working on the visor. You can use anything you want here. People use like a welding grinding shield. This is actually just thick clear perspex because I had some lying around in my garage, and I used some like tinted window film, and I also used a heat gun to shape it to the fit of the mask. It's not a simple process. It took a few attempts to get it right, and you know, lots of burnt fingers and all that, and also just cutting acrylic perspex is really quite difficult. So I would go easy over hard, but whatever you want. I just wanted it to, my first helmet, I wanted it to feel, you know, super solid and super cool. I then started to tape off the areas for the paint other than white. So the main nose piece has like a black surround. This is for the detail symbol on the side and the grey bits in the top of the helmet. And I just used like frog tape here because it has quite an accurate line. So there we go, that is the story of how I made my Biker Scout helmet, my very first ever 3D printed Biker Scout helmet. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have the confidence to do something like this yourself, because it is a lot of fun. It's long, it's arduous, it's hard work, but it's not hard work because it's loads of fun. It is a hobby and you will get stressed out at times and frustrated. That's kind of all part of it, isn't it? You know, we learn from our failures on how to do it better next time. So it's the exact same process for me, trust me, on every single helmet. I've got more to come. So please do hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to be notified of my next video and the next helmet. I'd also like to give a massive shout out to a channel called Galactic Armory, because he is the guy that inspired me to do all this, literally. He inspired me to buy a 3D printer, to try it myself. I also watched his videos on the process of how to do everything, so that guy is just like a bible for Star Wars helmet prop making. It's just incredible. So I just wanted to say a massive, massive thank you from my heart. I don't know your name, Big Baby. Thank you, Big Baby. You're a dude, absolute legend. Thank you, man. And that's it. Have fun. Bye.
Doesn't sound so bad to me.